Are here with us today. Laura Mangini and Ryan Alekman, co-lead counsel in this case from Alekman D'Souza. Cheryl Coakley-Rivera, we all know. Judy Potter, Tom Kennefick, co-counsel in this case, and Registrar of Probate, Rosemary Sacamani. Last week, we announced the settlement of the courthouse case. And earlier this morning, we released the terms and conditions of the settlement. And we're here today to say that we are thrilled to announce this settlement on the eve of trial achieves all of the major goals that were sought when this lawsuit was filed. For decades, there have been serious safety and health concerns associated with this courthouse. Many of those concerns were known by numerous trial court managers and supervisors whose primary duties and responsibilities were to protect the health and safety of the people that use this courthouse. From the disproportionate number of documented ALS and cancer cases to the alarming number of courthouse employees that reported suffering from a variety of respiratory problems. Finally, it all just reached a tipping point and exploded about 9 months ago when there was a massive mold outbreak in the courthouse that put everyone's health at risk. We all know that if this courthouse was located in Boston or just about in any county east of Worcester, it would have been torn down, courthouse operations and employees would have been relocated, and a new, modern, more efficient courthouse would have been built a long time ago. Unfortunately, leadership from Boston has shown no respect for Western Mass, and it continues to frustrate all of us. Western Mass deserves better. Western Mass deserves to be treated equally to those from the eastern part of the state, and that applies to worker health and safety and the repair and replacement of courthouses. Unfortunately, community leaders and elected officials like Cheryl Coakley-Rivera, like Judy Potter, like Dylan Bond, had to file this lawsuit, not to obtain money or any benefit for themselves, but simply to get the attention of those in charge from Boston and to get answers to basic questions that had been lingering for years. Over the past 9 months, we gathered documents, performed mold and PCB and fiberglass testing, and got the answers to the questions and concerns that the plaintiffs, other employees of the courthouse, and the community had been asking for a long time. You're all already aware of the results of the testing, including the presence of toxic cancer-causing mold in various places in the courthouse. Since that time, under the guidance of experts, and with the help of the plaintiffs and other community leaders, elected officials, and unions from this area who stepped up to the plate, like Sheriff Nick Cochi, a true leader, Registrar of Probate Rosemary Sacamani, a true leader, Senator Adam Gomez, a true leader, District Attorney Anthony Gallooni, a true leader, and Congressman Richie Neal, George Neal of OPEIU, a leader, NAGE IBPO, CPCS, and ACLU, and the Hampden County Bar Association were all involved and took leadership roles in this case. We demanded a safe place for people to work and to conduct courthouse business. We demanded comprehensive, extensive, and detailed mold, fiberglass, PCB, and other testing. We demanded repairs to the courthouse. We demanded that Boston look into giving us what we deserve, a new courthouse. We are proud of the results of this litigation has achieved, and the goals were reached through the settlement. The settlement requires, among other things, with regard to the HVAC system, installation of air supply diffuser filters on all ventilation units in the courthouse, which our experts say will filter out any mold or fiberglass that might be existing in the HVAC system before it hits the breathable air. There's going to be remediation of the toxic cancer-causing mold that was found by our expert. They are going to be removing all fiberglass from the fan coil units in a safe manner so that people are not working in the area in which this is being removed. They are going to install numerous portable HEPA filters. They're going to be upgrading the quality of the filters that are in place now. They are going to clean and replace water-damaged and moldy carpet. They are going to conduct weekly air sampling and provide those results in a transparent manner to the individuals who work in the courthouse and the community. They are going to put in place an operations and management plan for mold and fiberglass. They are going to replace ceiling tiles that have been stained and water damaged and moldy and sitting up there for years. They are going to inspect and repair the roof. Exterior windows will be caulked when needed. They're going to continue with a dehumidification project. And they are going to train their employees on mold cleanup. Also, importantly, they are going to conduct a deep clean of the building with a third-party vendor that all parties agree upon. This courthouse will be closed from the Friday before the 4th of July all the way through and including the Tuesday after the 4th of July so that a third party can come in and do a deep clean of the entire building. And that means things like desks, keyboards, computers, light fixtures, windows, door handles, blinds, and railings. While the courthouse is closed, the people who work in this building will be paid. We are hoping that when they come back to work, that it will be a cathartic experience for them when they come back into this building and see how clean it is. There are many other things as part of this settlement, including the employees will get an opportunity to participate in an occupational health and assessment evaluation to look at whether any of the conditions that they have are related to this courthouse. There will be a feasibility study for a new courthouse here in Hampden County that is scheduled to be completed by June of 2023. If this building ends up being renovated with the $91 million, the employees will be moved out to a temporary location. They will not be in this building while those repairs are being made. We will have a settlement coordinator to help to enforce all of the terms of this settlement, and it will be somebody that individuals in the courthouse can report to confidentially if they have any problems or concerns going forward. Before this case started, all of the above was either never going to happen or was not going to happen for many, many years. And there was zero chance of a new courthouse. In the end, we are very confident that once these measures are put into place over the next few months, the mold and fiberglass issues that have plagued this courthouse and these employees for a long time will no longer be a health and safety concern for them and members of the public that have to use this courthouse. We remain very hopeful that once the feasibility study is conducted and new leadership is in place, they will see the value and importance of investing in a new and improved and modern courthouse in Hampden County, rather than spending more than $91 million to repair an old and outdated building. We will continue to scrutinize the steps that the trial court is required to take as a result of this settlement, and we will continue to hold them accountable if they fail to follow through. and we will mandate that they continue to be transparent with people that work in the building and the Western Mass community. Before we conclude our prepared statement, we would like to state the obvious, that none of these results could have been achieved without the courage and leadership of the named plaintiffs, Cheryl Coakley Rivera, Judy Potter, and Dylan Bond, who came forward, stepped up to the plate, showed their courage, agreed to take on the challenge of the trial court, and attempt to hold the leadership in Boston accountable. We'd also like to thank the lawyers at the Attorney General's office, Julie Green, Phoebe Fisher-Groban, Liz Kaplan, and Adam Hornstein for their tireless efforts and help to help the parties reach this comprehensive settlement agreement. Finally, we would like to thank retired Justice Spina for his time, his effort, his energy, and for agreeing to come out of retirement to take this matter on for the benefit of the community. We'll now take any questions that anybody has. Thank you so much.
How much will the work described in the settlement cost?
We don't know exactly what it's going to cost, but it's going to be, it appears it's going to be in the six figures in terms of the amount of money.
You start off by saying the settlement reached all your major goals. What were those major goals?
Making sure at all times that this courthouse is going to be a safe place for people to work and people to come. And when these measures are finally put into place, which is going to be happening over the next couple of months, once that is done, we are very confident that it will be safe with regard to the mold and fiberglass issues that were involved in this case for people to come, whether you be a juror, whether you be a litigant, whether you be a judge, whether you be a union employee in the building, it will then be safe for people to come.
What does this mean in the interim when you have these cleaning procedures that are taking place over the next several months? What does this mean for the employees who are still in this building?
Well, there are still concerns while these measures are being taken place. Our position hasn't changed that as of right now, today, the building is not a safe place for people to be.
For the Registry of Deeds, for example, do you know, are they going to be continuing to do their work outside of the building?
They're going to continue to be doing their work outside of the building as of now. I don't know what their plan is going to be after these measures are finally put in place, which we anticipate will be, we're optimistic that all of this will be done according to the settlement agreement by about Labor Day.
Can you explain the feasibility study? What's the likelihood that Western Mass will do this?
Well, the feasibility study is very comprehensive, and we're going to be involved. We're going to have say in who the vendor is going to be. We don't get to pick the vendor, but we're going to be involved in that process. So we feel very optimistic that once the feasibility study is conducted, it just makes common sense, right? Why would you want to put $91 or more million into an old building when you can put X millions of dollars? We don't know what that number is going to be, but unless that number is something like $500 million, it just doesn't make any practical sense. And we're optimistic that once that is done and people sit down at a table with the information, that they will make the right decision, which at the end of the day is to put a new courthouse here in Hampden County.
Do you think that the building should be shut down in the time frame that we're waiting for these cleaning procedures and repairs to be made?
We've always thought that the building should be shut down while these things are going on. So that position, from our position, that hasn't changed. But these repairs that they've agreed to do in the time frame that they've agreed to do them will, at the end of the day, make this building safe.
Is there any concern that there may be other conditions that are found as the cleaning process and the repair process goes along that may not make this building safe even after all the work is done?
There's always concerns when you're going behind walls and you're doing additional repairs that things come up. But we have put into place through this settlement agreement an avenue for people to raise those concerns in a fair and efficient manner with the third-party settlement coordinator, and a place where people can go and report those things on a confidential basis. And if those things are reported, the procedure in place in the settlement agreement requires a mediation, requires a meeting of the parties to discuss the issues that are raised. Hopefully, through that process, those issues will be resolved, procedures will be put in place, and things will be fixed. If not, there is an avenue to come back to litigation.
The settlement agreement that was released to the press this morning, it's missing a few signatures. When are you planning to have the trial court sign on to that?
All signatures are on the document as of now, so we can get you a fully executed copy if you need it.
In terms of the voluntary health assessment of current and former employees that is in this, can you talk a little bit about what all that entails, and would the talk about?
So the occupational health assessment is something that was recommended back in, I think, 2018 or 2019 by EH&E. It's very similar to an epidemiological study that we've been requesting, only it's something that can occur much quicker and come up with recommendations and potential next steps. It's going to be open to both current employees and former employees of the courthouse to submit, I believe, their medical records, talk to the third-party vendor, explain what's going on, and it will help determine what the causes are, if the environmental conditions of the courthouse in the past or present are causing their health conditions, and it will also make recommendations going forward as to what next steps should be.
So would their health costs be covered in the event that they do find something that's linked to the conditions that they work in?
So this lawsuit was not your typical personal injury lawsuit. That is something that would probably be addressed down the road once those results are determined and we can get more information on it.
I know that no one in the case was named who had previous ALS cases, but was there any discussion about looking back at those cases, anything for those names at all? With the ones diagnosed with ALS, with the cancer diagnosis?
So they will be able to participate in the occupational health survey to help determine those causes. And again, based on that, we'll be doing further investigation as to what's going on. But I will say that all the families of the people who have come down with ALS, everyone that has, had cancer, they've all been crucial to providing the necessary information that we need to help show the danger of this case, and they've all been very cooperative with us throughout this lawsuit.
So their families will be able to participate in health assessments if they've already had.
Correct.
There's also the issue of the auto exhaust on this right-hand side of the building. How does the settlement address that issue?
Well, I think that's part of the air quality testing to make sure that there's no volatile organic compounds coming into the building, because that's really what the air quality testing is. So again, we'll be doing that on a weekly basis to make sure that the air quality in the courthouse is safe. And if there is an issue that comes up, we can immediately address that with the settlement coordinator. And there's a special provision to make it quicker than normal procedures.
And when will people be moved around? Will people be moved around their work areas and that sort of thing that's going on?
So for the fan coil unit fiberglass, which is the immediate issue that's been taking place over the past couple of weeks, we've negotiated an agreement where the employees who are in the specific areas, which are identified in the settlement agreement, where the work is being done, can either work remotely or relocate to a different part of the courthouse where the fiberglass work is not being done, to make sure that they're not being exposed to whatever is coming out of those vents while the fiberglass is being removed. The new filtration system to prevent the mold and the fiberglass from coming out of the HVAC, it's actually quite simple. It's literally filters over all of the air vents that just get screwed on. So it's not something where people are opening up the HVACs or going behind the walls to do it. The important thing, though, is if the trial court decides to renovate in 2 years as opposed to rebuild, and that's when they're going to go in and replace the entire HVAC system. At that point, people are going to be moved out of the courthouse, and they're not going to be renovating while employees are working in the courthouse. Employees will be moved out at that time, and they'll be moved out before that renovation process begins.
Is there anything the plaintiffs didn't get or had to give up on in the settlement that you wish you could have driven for?
No, we've gotten everything that we believe is necessary out of this settlement. Again, as Jeff mentioned, the goal was to make the courthouse safe for people working here. And another goal that we wanted was transparency, because we believe that was creating a lot of trust issues between the people out in Western Mass and Boston. So the transparency issues that we have put into this settlement agreement will make sure that people know what is going on out here, and we won't be left in the dark any longer.
Who will be doing, you said third-party vendor will be doing the cleaning. An employee wants to know who will be doing the cleaning and how you guys will make sure that it's up to standards and it's getting done.
So we have not determined that yet. We're working on that now, but it is an agreed third party between the plaintiffs and the defendants. So that will be something that we have input on. In terms of whether or not how it's going to be done, I mean, the employees are going to be able to report to the settlement coordinator if they come back in after that long weekend and say, listen, this courthouse is still dirty, like what is going on, this wasn't done. That we do have that enforcement mechanism to go back in and talk to the settlement coordinator. And I would also mention that the trial court has agreed that if the third-party vendor determines that it's going to take longer than that Tuesday after the holiday, the courthouse will remain closed so the third-party vendor can continue completing the deep clean. And again, the employees will be paid during that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a really important question, because one of the things that came up through this litigation, is, as Laura had mentioned, is the lack of transparency and the lack of trust that had developed over a period of years between, people in Western Mass and Boston and the trial court employees and the leadership in Boston. And what this agreement does is it's the starting process of rebuilding that trust. So it doesn't surprise me to hear, as we're standing here, that an employee already has a question about who's the vendor is going to be. And that's a trust issue. And so we have built into this agreement that we will be involved in that vendor selection process, because we want the employees in the courthouse to know, and people who are using that building, that it's not just going to be Boston telling them what is going to be happening. We're going to have input into that selection process, so that level of trust will hopefully start to be felt and over time regained by the employees.
And another important part of the settlement agreement that we thought was extremely important was the trial court is going to be giving notice every month of projects that they anticipate to start within the next 30 days. So that way employees aren't walking into court on Monday morning and seeing that fiberglass is being ripped out of the fan coil units. It's going to give them the opportunity to plan ahead. It'll give department heads the opportunity to plan ahead, move their employees around if they need to, and also just keep people informed in Western Mass as to what's going on at the place that they work at on a daily basis.
What does the settlement say about the building next door? Because I know the ventilation systems are under our feet.
There's nothing in this settlement agreement that directly relates to the next door building, referring to the housing court and the juvenile court, other than what you mentioned. To the extent that the HVAC system, there's going to be, in this building, we're going to have everything in place to make sure that the anything that might be contained in there is going to be diffused out before it hits the breathable air.
It seems like some other concerns that the people who, like you mentioned, that the maintenance staff will be getting trained. The concern from employees is that stuff has been going on. Those people have been cleaning, and in their opinion, they obviously did not do a great enough job. So if we're using, current maintenance staff and current, management, how are we going to make sure that doesn't happen again?
So the training for the staff is going to be on minor mold remediation, because obviously it's not safe, and we don't expect facilities and maintenance people in this building to know how to handle a mold outbreak like we saw last September. We also worked into the settlement agreement that the unions will be working with the trial court to determine that operations and maintenance plan and prevention plan that we talked about, and also the training. Again, if it's something where it's not working, we have that enforcement mechanism so that people can go in, report to the settlement coordinator, and the settlement coordinator can say, hey, what you're doing is not working, so we got to come up with something else to fix this.
Yeah, we're using, the settlement agreement requires the use of third-party vendors for anything that's major or above and beyond what is your regular maintenance. And so we're improving through this settlement agreement the day-to-day maintenance of the building through the additional training that people are going to get. And then, of course, any of the major issues that need to be cleaned up in there are all going to be done by third-party vendors that are mutually agreed upon for the most part by the parties.
Were employees notified of this settlement as well? When you guys signed it, were they given the settlement?
It was sent out to the local unions, and it was also sent out to the Bar Association to distribute to any member of the Hampden County Bar Association.
What happens next?
Well, I mean, the next steps are that the settlement agreement begins to be enforced, and that starts to take place sort of ASAP. You know, the time frame for certain things to be done is outlined in the settlement agreement. So you know, you can look through it and get the details. But you know, the air diffuser, the air supply diffuser filters are supposed to be done according to the agreement by August. Remediation done basically by Labor Day. So things, the earliest thing is the dehumidification project is going to be supposed to be done, is planned to be done by the end of June. There's multiple things that are going to be going on in July, multiple things in August, with a plan really that the significant majority of this work is going to be done by Labor Day.
And the other important thing is the procurement process, which the trial court has to do to get these independent vendors. They've agreed to do that within the next 3 weeks to make sure that the process is moving as fast as reasonably possible. So really the dates that you see in that settlement agreement are drop dead dates with the hope that we can get it done quicker once the procurement process starts.
Cheryl, you want to make a comment?
Of course I do. I'm standing over there and I'm thinking of a colleague that I used to work with. And I was told by a friend of mine that she had a mastectomy right after she retired. And she worked in this building for decades. She's doing okay, but we can tell you story after story after story of people that have been sick, died, disabled because of the conditions of this building. And a little research, 1982, I believe the court officers filed a grievance and asked their union, and I believe OSHA, to conduct an air quality test because so many of them were getting sick. 1982, I graduated from high school, 44 years ago. So as we can say, this is exactly what we wanted. How sad is it that we are in Massachusetts, the Democratic capital of the world, where we fight for workers here, right? We care about our workers in this state. Yet Western Mass, through numerous leaders, numerous governors, continue over and over again to turn their backs on Western Mass, in particular this courthouse. I do want to thank the attorneys involved. They were not paid. They worked tirelessly, like hours, and I mean, I can't even imagine. Like we were on the phone 9, 10 o'clock at night sometimes, either through mediation or with the other attorneys, or, I mean, that's what it's about to be a lawyer, right? To care enough to put your name out there, to put your reputation out there and fight, not for wages, not for personal injury claims, but fight for quality of life and health issues concerning this courthouse. And they stepped up to the plate. This was a TRO, right? This was either shut down the courthouse or keep it open. Could have been like, what, an hour? It turned into months and negotiations and settlements and getting the unions involved, the Bar Association. I mean, people just all stepped up to the plate. And unfortunately, the workers are scared and they couldn't. They were scared. And I understand that. So I do want to let the attorneys know that I truly appreciate, I started working here in 1984 as an intern under Matthew Ryan. So I truly appreciate the work that they put in. And yeah, the ideal situation is to build a new courthouse, right? So the Attorney General, this case is over. Now the Attorney General of Massachusetts is Maura Healey. She is running for governor. So I call on her to make a commitment to build a new courthouse in Hampden County. It's not complicated. I've been a legislator for over 15 years. I know the wheels of justice, the wheels of bonding and issues like development can be done decades or in days. So I call on Maura Healey. I know that she is very concerned about Hampden County and the quality of life, but I call on her to make a commitment. She can make that now. There is no conflict. So I call on her to make a commitment to build a new courthouse, regardless of what the trial court says, because she doesn't need them. When and if she's governor, which I believe she will be governor.
Do you plan to return to the courthouse once, let's say after Labor Day?
Yes, yes. And obviously the air quality test will be conducted every week. We'd like to get back in here. Partial, full. We miss people. We miss our friends, our colleagues, and we had a beautiful office. It's a beautiful office. Unfortunately, it wasn't safe, and it wasn't safe for me to have anybody work here. And I feel for those that still have to work here. I really, really do. But my employees, I'm responsible for, and so I've said, obviously we're going to stay out until I feel it's safe. We do go in occasionally to do some work, but we're going to stay out.
Safe to say you're happy with the settlement?
I'm very happy with the settlement. Keep in mind, like 1982, nothing has happened. Nothing. So go back 44 years. So absolutely nothing has happened. Everything that has happened is fallen on deaf ears. The complaints, the filing, the this, the that. The only time, even with the mold in the building, keep in mind, there was mold everywhere. They kept it open. The only reason why they shut it down is because everybody was leaving. Other than that, they would have just, I mean, their answer to everything is Windex and pledge. That's their answer. Windex and pledge. We're good, thank you. So now, we file a lawsuit, right? So guess what? All of a sudden, from nothing wrong and just clean the windows to $100 million worth of problems. Like, how did we get there, right? How did we get there? Because of the lawsuit. That's the only reason why they responded. So it's sad, but you know, this is why we have our system in place, right? To make people do what they're supposed to do. Unfortunately, people have died and gotten very, very sick.
Cheryl, and the Registry of Deeds is out of the building and the ADA's office is out of the building. Whose decision is it to get probation out of the building?
So that would fall under the trial court. And so the difference is the DA, the district attorneys have their own budget. The Registry of Deeds falls under the Secretary of State. We do not fall under the trial court, even though I'm a trial court officer as a clerk of land court. Having said that, the trial court doesn't control us. And that's the difference between my employees being in a safe place and the trial court employees being in an unsafe place. So it falls on the trial court, and hopefully, and keep in mind, I cannot file another lawsuit regarding this, and my good friend Judy Potter, but there's 500 other employees in here that can. And I think if anything, we've empowered each other to stand with each other and to cry with each other to come forward. So, you know, my days are over, but I got 500 more in there, my friends and colleagues, that they'll file in a minute. They'll file in a minute.
How difficult has it been on your office and the public who needs to do business with your office not being here and being in other locations in the county?
Actually, the public has been very, very supportive. They're very frustrated and angry that other employees are still in this building. Because of COVID, it was most attorneys now e-file. So that transition to maybe drive to Westfield wasn't a big deal for them. And in terms of anyone else that needed to file or ask questions, my staff will literally meet somebody on the street. We'll go to your house. I mean, we work for the people. And if you knew me as a state rep, you know I would do anything. Anything to make sure that, you know, we get the job done for the people, regardless of what that is. But the community, the lawyers, they've all been very supportive of our transition.
Cheryl, they also said that they have location availability in multiple places, but Mayor Sarno was never notified by anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that there are numerous locations, maybe long-term temporary. The governor just filed a bill with federal money due to the COVID, and about economic development in towns, in downtown areas. I'm not sure why you couldn't take $200 million of that money and build a courthouse. I mean, nothing more important than 500 employees still working in downtown area, right? So there's a lot of ways and places that we could go. We could go. A lot, actually. And I can name several. So, you know, again, we're getting a new governor, and hopefully with that governor, there will be changes, obviously. Republican administration versus a Democrat administration. So hopefully we will get a new courthouse. I'm pretty optimistic about that. All because of this lawsuit. Like, all because of this lawsuit.
But renovations aren't going to start until 2024, correct?
The major renovations, there will be some, okay? But the major ones, and keep in mind, they wanted to stay in the building while they cleaned the HVAC. Like that was on the table. Like anything that we had in this piece of paper, in that settlement, we had to fight for. Like literally fight for and bargain for. And they would throw little tidbits out there like, well, you know, we're kind of thinking like maybe you don't have to leave when we clean out the HVAC system. What? So that's where we're at, right? So we've come full circle with a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of commitment. And so we've got a commitment that we're leaving when they do certain levels of cleaning. And, you know, it is a trust issue, and the attorneys knew that I was concerned with that. Hopefully there'll be changing of the guards here, because clearly the director of maintenance, he didn't do his job for decades. I'm not convinced that he can do his job, and I believe he should be either reorganized out of here or replaced permanently, because there's no way that you can go from there's nothing wrong with the building to $100 million worth of problems overnight. Like somebody wasn't doing their job, right? And as long as they didn't report any problems to Boston was very happy with that. And then they didn't have to do any work here, right? So I think accountability is a big issue for our trust issues that we have with the maintenance personnel here. And I'm not talking about the daily maintenance. Okay, those guys are wonderful. I'm talking about administration. Okay, let me just clear that up. So hopefully they will reorganize because it's embarrassing for the trial court, quite honestly. That you go from nothing wrong with the building, we'll just clean up a little mold, to $100 million. And that's because of DCAM.
Can I ask one more question?
You can ask whatever you want. I work for you.
Why was that Benzinger report omitted?
Okay, hold on a minute. The Benzinger report.
What's your question about the
They
Benzinger?
had that single test that you guys had before, that you had them perform for the courthouse, and the Benzinger.
So the Walter Benzinger, sorry, was our expert. So we hired him to come in and do the testing.
Right. Why was that omitted from? Why was it denied by the court?
It was not denied by the court. Well, I'm not sure what you're.
Because when I had read some of the trial court documents, they had said that specific report was denied by the judge to be discussed with the complaint.
No, so if we had gone to trial, our expert would have been able to testify as to what he found in the courthouse and the general health issues associated with those specific types of mold. What he not was able to testify, which we were not going to have him testify to because we know he wasn't qualified, as to whether the mold was specifically causing health issues for the people in the courthouse, because he's not a doctor, so he's not actually qualified to testify about that.
And we had an additional expert to testify to that particular issue.
That this building should be considered a sick building, and that the number of ALS cases in this specific square footage was very significant when you look at numbers of ALS cases across the globe, actually. So.
One more question for both of you. How is this settlement better than going to trial? Or is it?
It's an up or down vote.
What's that?
It's an up or down vote. Close the building or keep it open. Who's the TRO?
Yeah, this is better. We got through this result, we got much more than I think you could have ever really gotten at trial. I mean, all of the things that are included in that settlement agreement are not things that were part of this case. The part of this case was, as Cheryl just said, it's an up or down close the building. I mean, look at all of the things that are included in that settlement agreement that this community got and that these employees got that could not and would not have been ordered from the court, including the feasibility study, the air diffuser system put in there, the training and maintenance of the employees, the occupational health survey. So it is, as Cheryl said, as we've said, it achieved all of the goals of the lawsuit and more. So we're very happy with the result that we got in this case. Really want to thank you all for, doesn't look like there's any more questions, really want to thank you all for covering this story along the way, for everybody who works in the building and for the community. I know that everybody appreciates it. Thanks for coming out today.